Turning on home. Welcome. I'm so glad we're live. This is Terry McGill, and as you can see down here, the other side, this is the Who's Your Neighbor show. So a little bit of history or context. When COVID started, and I'm just recovering from COVID, I finally got it about 3 weeks ago. When COVID started and shut the world down, I began to see and feel the posts that people were making in social media, and it was not good. We have to have connection, inclusion, and we didn't. And so this show was born from that and has morphed into, and it's still morphing. Originally, it was just I invited people I know for like 25 years around the Portland metropolitan area. And they would come on and they would just share. We'd just chat about what they did, what they offered. It's like, wow. Did you know that one of only two that I know of in the world, bicycle libraries, you heard me right, it's a library on a bicycle. They've actually got more than one now. Started right here in Portland about 11 years ago by a woman who had no idea she's going to be doing that. It just grew, and it serves the homeless. And there's other terms for those who are unhomed at the moment. But it's just amazing just to hear that. And then, there's 30 or more others. And tonight, speaking of community, of inclusion, of connection, of support, we have a wonderful guest from the San Francisco Bay Area, Caroline Cabading. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Caroline.
You did.
Good. And so that I don't speak it out incorrectly, what is the ManilaTown Foundation?
Well, the name of my foundation is the ManilaTown Heritage Foundation. And one of our core programs is that we manage a place, and that place is called the International Hotel ManilaTown Center. So sometimes people get the two names all mixed up, but one is a building and one is our organization.
So the International Hotel, now, I understand from something I read that back in like 1966 or something, everybody that was elderly people that were living there were evicted in the middle of the night.
Yeah, so basically the International Hotel in San Francisco was a low-income residential hotel, and it became the most dramatic housing rights battleground in San Francisco. And it is so famous and iconic that it's actually known throughout San Francisco, the state, and even globally. So this was very important. It was at its, at its biggest moment, 3,000 human beings created a human chain around a residential hotel to prevent elders from being evicted, without any kind of recourse as to where else they were going to be. And for that reason, in 1977, when the eviction actually happened, it was the ground zero point of the affordable housing and tenants' rights movement. So that's why it's very important to American history, San Francisco history, and even global history. People come to our center to basically pay respects to that legacy. And it was like a battle that lasted almost 10 years. So when you said the 1960s, that's true. It was a 9-year battle to prevent elderly people from being evicted without any place to go. And we did lose the battle. They were evicted on August 4th, 1977.
Wow.
Yeah. So my organization, basically, we honor the legacy of not just the International Hotel eviction movement, but also what it was the final piece of, which was the complete decimation of the first Filipino village in San Francisco. So ManilaTown. So we remember both historic ManilaTown as well as the International Hotel, the last of the residential hotels. It was a village started in the 1930s, in which it was a vibrant, diverse village of the Filipino American community, with businesses, with people living there, with families, being in the space for about 10 blocks of San Francisco, and slowly redevelopment, which is what it was called back in those days. Now we call it gentrification, I guess. Slowly chipped away at that village, so that that when it finally ended, it was one building, and us and the community trying to protect that one building before they actually lost that battle, and the residents were evicted at 4 a.m. At night. And what's beautiful about this struggle, I guess, was that 3,000 human beings, in the San Francisco Bay Area, from a mass diverse range of people from all the different colors, and cultures, labor unions, nurses, students, elders, young people, felt that this was also their fight to fight the rights of elderly people. And so they all came out in support. And that was like a beautiful symbol of what San Francisco was at that time, in terms of its feeling of connection and a family feeling, and feeling that this struggle was also their struggle as human beings, the right to affordable housing and the rights for tenants.
So that was back in the Flower Child days.
Yes. It was actually in a very interesting period, a 10-year period of San Francisco, which also included the Third World Strikes, the Flower Children period, absolutely. The development of the schools of ethnic studies at UC Berkeley and San Francisco State, and of course the International Hotel struggle. All of this stuff was happening. Oh, also gay and lesbian rights, their movement was coming up in our city as well. And also, there was the Vietnam War was happening at that time. And lots was happening in our city at that time. It was an amazing period.
So how did the hotel get reinvented?
Well, basically what happened was that, the story about that SRO is that it was the home to, and this goes back to American history, in which the stoop labor of our country, from the very beginnings of, from the 1900s, till about the 1960s, when it came to working in the canneries, when it came to working in the farms and stuff like that, American folks, most of American folks that lived here didn't want to do that kind of work. So there were attempts to go to Asia to bring stoop labor here. And it started with the Japanese people, then the Chinese people, and then Filipinos. So that's how these people came over. They didn't come over as families. They came over as young men, because the intention was never that they would create their home in America. When these contractors contracted them as workers, they were intending for them to just go back. So who didn't come over were families, children, and women. So the reality of it is that they never could afford to go back. This became home now, but they were basically a bachelor society. So that was what was living in the SRO at that time, was a bachelor society that was aging in place. They were blue collar workers, didn't have a lot of money, were surviving off of Social Security at that time because they were elders. And an SRO, or a single resident occupation apartment building, would be what they could afford in San Francisco. So to suddenly evict them was putting them in dire straits. They were basically poor people. And so that was really what happened, was that it was an attempt to evict them, so that the owner of that building could create a high-rise parking lot. And as opposed to maybe, you could have let them age in place, and then you would have had the building and you could do whatever you wanted to. But because, the company really felt that they needed to evict them right away, it caused a lot of anger, amongst San Franciscans and the San Francisco Bay Area people. So they came to the defense. They lost the battle after 10 years. And at 4 a.m., no, actually it was 3 a.m. on August 4th, 1977, old people were thrown out into the street. The sheriff's office took sledgehammers and broke down their doors. And then behind the doors were like just scared elders and brought them out in the street. And they didn't even had time to get their belongings. So after that, the building was demolished. But the thing about it is that it left such a bad taste in the mouths of Americans, that they really, any type of building or construction on that space just never really, happened, because I think there was bad karma going on there or something like that. So it was literally a hole in the ground for about 25 years.
Wow.
Which is ironic, because of course, if you just let the gentlemen and, the residents age in place, you would have had that building. You could have demolished it, created whatever parking lot you wanted, but instead it was just a hole in the ground. And because there was so much bad energy around it in terms of what could happen in that space, the only thing that really could happen was it had to become what it was, which was a home for low-income seniors. So a combination of the city of San Francisco Housing and Urban Development HUD, the Chinese American community and the Filipino American community were able to purchase the land and rebuild the International Hotel. And it remains now as a 106 apartment complex, lovely space that for low income seniors, that we do a great job of really taking care of them, making sure that they're safe, that they're healthy, that they're happy. And then right next to the apartment buildings themselves is a center that honors the legacy. It's like a community-based museum and gallery. And I'm the executive director of the gallery.
Wow.
So I have the fun part in which we get to tell the story about historic ManilaTown, and we get to engage with the elders that live there now, and that we remember this very brave and important part of San Francisco's history.
And you get to turn the crank.
Yeah.
That puts out this story constantly.
Yes, because we don't want to forget, because we are nothing without our stories. And the thing about when you decimate a village, and that is one of the villages that really completely disappeared, from San Francisco. And in San Francisco, we're already having a problem with gentrification, in which working class San Franciscans who created villages over the course of as long as our city has been there, now cannot afford to live in their city. And so what happens is that working class families have to move away, and then the village goes away. So there are villages, enclaves in San Francisco that are struggling right now, but ManilaTown was thoroughly decimated. It disappeared. So when your village disappears, you have to fight even harder to remember it, because if it disappears and no one talks about it, it's as if it never existed. So that's my job, is that you never forget, because it was the village of my family. So there's that. I am Filipino, but then literally my DNA runs through that land, is that my family first came here in 1904. So we were part of those families that actually lived in ManilaTown and old San Francisco.
I just heard a few months ago about the rents for one-bedroom apartments in the Bay Area. It's like $4,000 a month. I went, what?
Yeah, studios for $3,000. Yeah.
We're seeing something similar in Portland, Oregon, 550 miles north of you.
Yeah.
There was I just saw a video today that I hadn't seen, hadn't heard about, haven't seen it yet, but it's talking about the death of Portland, because Portland has changed so much. Gentrification hit us, boy, when was that? About the 1970s.
Yeah.
And it wiped out. And they came in with these big new apartment buildings, but the people who had lived there couldn't I couldn't rent there. And now I was a realtor for 22 years, and I watched the affordability. Um, so this is not just in one city. This is the effect of what happens with communities that don't have the leadership, whether it's at the government level or otherwise, to say, no, wait a minute. For
Yeah.
example, in Portland, when I was a realtor, one of the things I learned was I had a family from Cambodia and needed an interpreter. Geez, our realtor association had realtors who spoke English and 37 other languages, and they would volunteer um, to be the interpreter. It still moves my heart to think about that. Um, so we've got those 37 different cultures, and some of them have almost disappeared.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to recreate something that you may have heard about from an auntie or a grandparent, but you don't have, well, you know this better than I do. Um, I see the cultural events around Portland and around Oregon, in fact, Washington.
Yeah.
So I really salute what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're another lighthouse, and there are lighthouses around the world. And I'm just so happy that you're here on this show. And let's see, I don't even know if there's anybody watching live tonight on Facebook. I don't think so. But what we notice is that within about 10 days, there's over 100 views. And then if something comes along that sometimes we'll have a guest get COVID and sometimes a host gets COVID.
No.
And so we play a recording and then it's out there again. And these are treasures. Tonight, we're in the process of creating another YouTube treasure. And they'll be available. I just had an image of a necklace with a bunch of jewels on it.
Oh.
They're cultural jewels. Whether it's a bicycle library for the unhomed in Portland,
Yeah.
or the ManilaTown Heritage Foundation, did I get it right?
Yes. Yes, you did.
In San Francisco, or wherever it is and whatever it is, human beings must nurture that uniqueness of culture as well as the connectedness with others.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is something that's relatively new for me. When I was a realtor, for example, I just worked 60 hours a week. I didn't do much thinking about anything except how do I hold that one together because it looks like it's wobbling.
Yeah. But it's really important, I think, that, as I am, like honoring a neighborhood and being there, it's a place-based situation. It isn't something that really can be replicated on Zoom. Our programs, it was a place that was loved. These men and women who lived there, they thought of themselves as family. They recreated family because, again, a lot of them were like single, bachelors. So they created family amongst themselves. They made a wonderful thing out of a bad situation. And it makes you, really, understand how important that is. It's important that we as human beings are connected and that we talk to each other, that we remember each other's stories. We are nothing without our stories. So that holding together the stories that empower and inspire, a people or our country about the wonderful things that we are and all of our diversity is really important. And it's really important that as you walk out the door, first of all, it's very important that you walk out the door. It's like enough with these too many virtual things. It's like you need to walk out the door and you need to find out who might be owning small businesses that you should support, because those are important things. So those are the villages, the small businesses, your neighbors, that's everything that is human. And so in many ways, I might be representing this one historic village and this one apartment complex that exists there now, that honors, that village. But it's really, as a San Franciscan, I'm always walking around respecting all of our villages and taking the time to just talk to people and to and to remember that that's the most important thing, is that human connection, and to listen to people's stories, because that's really what makes family, and that's how we become a community, is that we have shared story, that we're taking the time to listen to each other, and we're taking the time to talk to each other.
Would you share more about the cultural center next door?
Okay, so that's what I'm responsible for. So it's basically a community-based museum in which we have artifacts like protest posters. We have like photos that were taken of that time, and artwork that was inspired and created from that time, and from historic ManilaTown from the 1930s up until 1977, as well as the I-Hotel struggle itself. But we also want to be relevant to today's community. We are right now living in what is ChinaTown. It used to be ManilaTown, but now we have been incorporated into where ManilaTown used to be, is now where ChinaTown is, and the financial district. So we keep our eyes and our ears open to what is relevant for today's community too. We don't want to be archaic. So even though we're honoring this really empowering legacy, an important legacy of San Francisco, we also make sure that we are a welcoming space to the community that wants to walk in and be in community with us. They want to hear a good story about what these people were like who lived here, be it back in the 1930s to 1977. It's like there's two generations that live there, and they had like amazing stories. And my job is to also collect those stories. So I am the archivist to historic ManilaTown, and also how the memory of ManilaTown continues. Because like just last Saturday, we opened an art exhibit by Angela Han, a local Chinese American visual artist. She is relevant to the community now. So her artwork, she has an opportunity to show her beautiful artwork in our space. So we are modern and current at the same time that we are historic.
I love it.
Yeah, and people who come in, they're welcome, not like a museum where you have to be on pins and needles. We actually have cafe tables. You can like have a cup of coffee and just talk to us and just be happy in the space, even though it is a community-based museum and gallery. It's like we want it to be much more comfy than that. That community can come in out of the cold, and just like the old I-Hotel, and be like family with us.
What do you do outreach into the schools, or invite the schools to come in?
Yeah, we are very important particularly in the curriculums of the schools of ethnic studies. And so we, from all over the country, and sometimes outside of the country, school groups or just like even tour groups come in, and they want to take our historic walking tour, where we really walk them through historic ManilaTown. We show them the current building and the museum, and then we also like show films. So we are connected, and sometimes the little ones can even like relate to this. So we sometimes have like the K through 12 schools coming through as well. So we have been doing that for, oh gosh, since we first opened up in 2005 when we reopened. So that's very much a part of our education, program is walking college and high school and even sometimes elementary school students through the space.
And groups come from literally outside the country too.
Literally outside the country. Sometimes tourists have come seeking out the International Hotel because it was a very powerful movement for them when they heard about it. It's sort of like ultimate people power in the sense that the people came and defended the rights of other people. That's a huge story, right? Yeah. But we have also become alternative spring breaks. Meaning that we have a nice relationship with Stanford students and also University of Massachusetts at Boston, where a contingent, instead of going to the beach or something like that, spring break will come to California, and we are one of their stops of showing activist history, because that's important. We also represent activist history, not just Asian American and not just Filipino American, not just San Francisco. We mean bigger. Our struggle and our story is kept in the hearts of many communities, not least of which is the activist community.
Caroline, you touch my heart.
Oh, thank you, Terry.
And I want to thank you for sharing. Wow. I don't know what else to say except wow. So for our viewers in the future, this will be posted over in the comments section, or you can just replay it and see Caroline's email where you can connect with her. There's a Facebook website also. Right there, the Facebook page.
And website.
Pardon?
And website.
And website too. I don't have my computer glasses on, so it's like squint. Yeah. So this is how you can connect. This is where you might go the next time you're heading down to the Bay Area and you go, well, gee, we're going to be here for however long. And a half a day, what a difference it can make. So thank you so very much for being the guest tonight on Who's Your Neighbor.
Thank you, Terry.
So good to see you again.
It's wonderful to see you again. I hope you get better soon and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, and you too. So I'm Terry McGill. This is Who's Your Neighbor? And each week we bring you another neighbor. And I'm 550 miles from San Francisco, but the next time I go down there, I'm going to stop in. I only learned about this a couple of weeks ago. It's like, really? That's how fascinating. And so next week, we don't know yet who will bring you. It could be, have you ever heard of Kangen water? So I'll just leave that as what's he talking about? Come again next week, next Tuesday night. And if you're busy on a Tuesday evening, 7:30 to approximately 8 or 8:15 on a Tuesday evening, Pacific time, of course, then it's recorded. It's on the Facebook page. We have YouTube, and we're your neighbor.